In today's video, we are looking at the best time-only watches ever made. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And time-only watches are interesting. It's a perfect example of why boring is better. When you strip everything back, you get something that lasts a load longer. So in this video, we're going to be covering the top 12 time-only watches ever made. But before we start, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest watch news, I would really appreciate it. We also have a massive giveaway coming up very soon, so that's exciting. Thank you. At number 1, we have this. This is the Hamilton Khaki Field Murph 38mm. Now, you do get two different variations of this watch. You do get a white dial or a black dial. For the purposes of this video, we're not going to specify which one you should prefer because it's just about the watch in general. But let's move on to the specs. This watch comes in at 38mm in diameter, 11.1mm in thickness. It's water resistant to 10 bar, which is 100 meters. Comes in full stainless steel. Of course, you have the choice between the stainless steel bracelet or the leather strap, and it has the caliber H10 movement. This is fully automatic and pretty incredibly for the price has 80 hours of power. Now, this full package with the bracelet comes in at £935. And the reason that I haven't put the normal Khaki Field and have put the Khaki Field Murph, if you're wanting a watch that only tells the time, you want it to also suit any occasion. It's kind of like an everyday wearer, but a time-only everyday wearer. And I think that this would play the part of being that little bit more classy and also fitting in the outdoors. Next up, we get to a classic. And by the way, on the subject of classics, you're going to want to hear the watch that we have at the end, because that's a classic. But anyway, this is the Tudor Black Bay 58. It has vintage flares, it's simplistic, it's classy, it's everything that you want in a time-only watch. This model comes in at 39mm in diameter, comes in full stainless steel, has a thickness of 11.9mm, is water resistant to 200 meters, has a beautiful anodized aluminium disc insert for the bezel, which kind of has more of a matte feel to it, and I really like the way that it kind of absorbs the light comparatively to ceramic. This watch has the manufacturer caliber MT5402, and that's fully COSC certified. It's entirely self-winding and has 70 hours of power. This watch, again, is an example of why boring is better, but they did release a burgundy version this year at Watches and Wonders 2025, which isn't boring, it's anything but boring, and it still is time only. So you can, or you do have that flexibility between something a little bit more fun, fresh, with a little bit more flair, and something a bit more classy. So this watch, it's a banging time-only watch. It comes in at £3,550. On the subject of Tudor, I feel like this is probably as good a time as it was going to come up eventually. This is the Rolex Submariner No Date with the reference number 12406. This comes in at £8,100, comes in at 41mm, comes in full oyster steel, and it looks absolutely brilliant on the wrist. This comes with 300 meters of water resistance and has the beautiful movement caliber 3230. This is entirely self-winding and has approximately 70 hours of power. I'm not going to dwell on this watch too much because everybody knows Rolex because it's Rolex, but the No Date Submariner is definitely the more rare of the two. I say rare. It's the more hard to get version of the Submariner because it's more popular, and because of that, the secondary price definitely is higher than the Date version. But if you were to get this new, it comes in at £8,100. Cartier have a ton of history, and I can't believe that the Cartier tank was designed after a literal tank. I kid you not. I mean, we've done history videos in the past, so if you want to see them, you can go and find them. I've talked about this in detail, but I find that wild. The Cartier tank just absolutely oozes class. It's a bit like the JLC Reverso, but not quite as expensive, and I just absolutely love the squared off shape of this model. Let's talk about the tank must solar beat just for an example. This watch comes in at 29.5mm by 22mm, so it is quite small, and it comes in at 6.6mm in thickness. Now, that's partially because it does have a quartz movement, and it does have the choice of a leather strap or a bracelet. This watch comes in at £3,500, and on the kind of wall of fame when it comes to watches, Cartier is definitely quite near the top for me. I wouldn't say it's at the top at the moment, but it's definitely pretty near the top. unbelievable history, unbelievable watches, and I really like what they do. And on the subject of Cartier, we might as well go to a similar aesthetically looking watch, which shares no DNA with Cartier, but still kind of looks the same just because of the shape. This is the JLC Reverso Tribute. This has a dual face and a small seconds counter, and it is insanely I actually remember talking to my brother at Watches and Wonders, and he said, you know, one day when I get married, the watch that I'll get is going to be a JLC Reverso, just because they're so classy. And honestly, I can see that. I really can. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in length, but 28.3 millimeters in width. The thickness is 10.34 millimeters, and it's water resistant to 3 bar, which is 30 meters. It has a beautiful manual winding movement in the caliber 854, and this has 42 hours of power and 160 components. I was actually hesitant to put this watch on the list because depending on the way you look at it, you could say that the way that it flips over to the other side and shows the other face is, technically speaking, a complication. So is it time only? Technically it is, but also technically it isn't, because that could be considered a complication. But anyway, I do think this is a brilliant time only watch, super, super classy, and it comes in at £12,500. All right, next up, and this was actually one of your guys' suggestions on the Chisholm Hunter Watches family group chat, which is on the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram page. I often fire questions into there and see what you guys have to say and include them in videos. And if you want to get involved in the kind of like watch collection side of things, that's where to go. But you guys suggested this. This is the Rolex Explorer 36 millimeters, not the Explorer 2, the Explorer 1. Now you do have two variations of this watch. You have a 36, but you also have a 40 if you want to go for that. Let's just talk about the 36 as an example. Now the Explorer is, I feel like I'm dumb saying this, but the Explorer's watch within Rolex's arsenal, I feel like it definitely ticks more of a rugged box than the Explorer 2, just because it is time only. It's highly understated and highly reflective and beautiful in the light. Honestly, we had this in Iceland. It was Chris Howe, a buddy of mine, was wearing it, and I was totally taken by it. It comes in full stainless steel. Of course, as I said before, comes in 36 millimeters in diameter, is waterproof to 100 meters, has a movement which is the self-winding caliber 3230, and that has 70 hours approximately of power. I feel like this is another perfect example of why boring is better. Boring is longer lasting. It's not too abrasive, so it's going to last the test of time. It's going to withstand the test of time. It's a clear example of that. And if you were to get one of these new, which you might not be able to do, but I think you probably would if you waited maybe 6 months, they'll cost you around about £6,400. By the way, guys, let me know what you think of these picks. It was honestly hard to find time-only watches. If you guys know any time-only watches that are better or you think deserve to be on this list, let me know in the comments. All right, so we've smashed through a bunch of quite expensive models. Let's drop the price a little bit, and let's talk about the Citizen Sayosa Automatic Small Seconds. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, is of course time only, is water resistant to 50 meters, comes in full stainless steel, and has a beautiful blue dial with a small seconds counter in the middle. Now there are different variants of this watch. I mean, you do get the blue dial, but you also get like a black and a kind of olivey green dial, so it's really up to you. But I think that in terms of Citizen's expertise, this watch is crafted beautifully when you want just time only. And I love the fact that it has that small seconds counter in the middle. Although it's still time only, it kind of looks more complicated because it has that. Plus, it is quite affordable. And on the wrist, it looks kind of like PRXy, I would say, or Christopher Ward 12Xy. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, this comes in at £399. Grand Seiko is a difficult one, and I'll tell you why Grand Seiko is a difficult one. I've had a I wouldn't go as far as say love-hate. I'd maybe go love-dislike relationship with Grand Seiko. And the reason being is I feel like a lot of their watches center around their dials. A lot of their watches center around the design of the dials instead of the watch themselves. Now, this year at Watches and Wonders, they actually changed that. And since then, I've come out of my dislike phase and dropped straight back into the love phase. And this watch, it's actually kind of old, but this watch, it just goes to show again that the more simplistic you can make something, the more longer lasting it is. This is the Grand Seiko SBG W231. It's entirely mechanical and manual winding and has the most beautiful polishing you'll probably ever see. It has beautiful specs as well. I mean, it comes in at 37.3 millimeters in diameter, 11.6 millimeters in thickness, comes in full stainless steel, of course. It has a crocodile leather strap, and the movement is the 9S64, which is a manual wound movement with 72 hours of power. Now, typically speaking, leather straps really aren't for me, and I think it's because they just don't sit in my wrist quite right. But I do appreciate when you go back 20, 30, 40 years to vintage watches, everyone used to wear leather straps. And there's a really nice thing that happens with leather straps over time where they get kind of frayed, quite dusty, like the color goes a little bit more dusty and it looks old and a kind of worn leather. And actually that's a look that people genuinely like. I mean, they literally buy leather new that has the effect of a worn leather. This watch comes in at £4,150. All right, next up, and I kind of wanted to put the Omega Seamaster, but of course the Omega Seamaster does have a date window, so the king wasn't involved. But what was involved is a banger that kind of got discontinued, and this is the only watch that I'll talk about that's fully not in production anymore, but it upset me when it was discontinued. This is the Omega CK859. It comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.7 millimeters in thickness, 46.2 millimeters lug to lug, and it has a beautiful manual winding caliber 8926 movement with 72 hours of power. Now, interestingly, this watch surfaced around about the lockdown period, so everyone was very scared and kind of staying indoors, and as a result, there wasn't much marketing that actually went into this piece. Then we came out of lockdown, and within 6 months, this watch was discontinued. Now, you need to remember that during the lockdown period, the factories weren't creating watches half as much as they normally did. So that meant that the production numbers of this watch were actually a lot lower than you might think. And as a result, it's now quite a rare watch, and it's absolutely stunning in person. On the secondary market, this is trading for around about £5,000, just depending box and papers, condition, etc., etc. But yeah, I was really upset when they discontinued this. And then they re-released one for the Olympic Games, but it was more associated with the Olympic Games and I didn't have a connection to it. So yeah, I hope they bring this back. I think they will, but it remains to be seen. Next up, we have an understated watch in the industry, an unloved watch in the industry that I think deserves a lot more love. This is the Nomos Glashütte Club Campus. Now, there's of course tons of different options you can go for here, depending on which one you want, but let's just talk about the one with the kind of white dial with the baby pink hour markers and orange hand. It's nice, it's quirky, it's fresh. I like it. It comes in at 36 millimeters in diameter, 8.2 millimeters in height. Comes with a lug to lug of 47.5 millimeters. Comes in full stainless steel and has the caliber alpha manual, which is of course manual winding, which has up to 43 hours of power. This watch comes in at £1,380, and I just do feel that it's fresh, it's fun, it's time only. Maybe it is a little bit more feminine. Some could say this model might be, but I could see anyone wearing this, and it is fun, and that's why I like Nomos. They're doing something a little bit different. They're doing something kind of against the grain, and yeah, they're an awesome brand. There's not much I could say about this that I don't like. Like, maybe the crown could be refined a little bit, but honestly, it's good. It wouldn't be a watch video without mentioning, well, I was going to mention Vacheron, but then I realized the Vacheron overseas does have a date. It's actually surprisingly hard to find watches with no date. That's what I discovered doing this video. So instead, I looked at someone else in the Holy Trinity, which was AP. Then I discovered that it was hard to find those watches with no date. Then I looked at Patek, and I thought, that Calatrava, that's banging. This is the Calatrava 6119R-001. It comes with a beautiful brown leather strap, comes in full gold, and honestly, this watch just it's the definition of class. This comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter. It comes in at 8.08 millimeters in thickness, which is just insane. Has a water resistant of 30 meters, has a sapphire case back so that you can see into the movement, and it has the caliber 30-255 PS manual winding movement. And this has, of course, a small seconds counter. I feel like in terms of class, as I said before, this defines it. This is the definition of it. It looks vintage. It looks, I don't want to say classy again, but you guys know what I mean. It is one of the Holy Trinity for a reason. The movement's beautiful, but the price tag, not as beautiful. This comes in at £29,070. All right, next up, we have one from Panerai. Now, Panerai is a brand that I absolutely, actually Panerai and IWC are two brands at the moment that I think are doing incredible stuff. But I had a weird attraction to Panerai last year when they started releasing their Luna Rosa lines. I thought they were insane. And then I found this on Panerai's website. This is the Panerai Luminor Tregorni Luna Rosa, or the PAM 01653. It comes in at 44 millimeters in diameter, so it is a chunky monkey, and you've got to remember that it does have that really iconic, but sometimes perhaps it's too much for people, the crown lock device on the right-hand side. Now that, to me, makes Panerai Panerai. That's why I kind of love it, but I know it's not for everyone. It has a beautiful movement in the hand-wound caliber P.6000, and this has a brilliant 3 days of power reserve. It's water resistant to 100 meters, and I love the way the dial has that splash of red, which kind of leads in wonderfully with that strap that's on it, because it also has red on it. Now, obviously, those are the Luna Rosa colors, and again, I think I've covered this in another video, but it's a really cool collaboration. This model as a full package comes in at £5,700. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please consider hitting that subscribe button to keep up to date with the Chisholm Hunter channel, or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelens, or our podcast, the Into the Mind podcast, and I'll see you guys real soon.